I hope you all had a lovely break over the festive season, and perhaps you came up with a few goals or new challenges which you want to take on this year. So for myself, I decided I'm going to put together a bit of a monthly video series, and the concept's really short, sharp, 10-15-minute videos. We're going to be covering on different subjects, talking about the overall concepts or idea, looking at some examples in which attackers might use against you, against your organization, and also some of the ways in which you can protect yourself against these different areas of an attack. So with that, let me share my whiteboard screen here, and we're going to start talking about the first one. And there we go. So I'm sure plenty of you have heard about a concept called the cyber kill chain. But if you haven't, it basically refers to if an attacker wants to do something bad or launch an attack on your organization or on a particular person, it's different phases that they need to go through in which to execute on that attack. So, typically it's going to go in order. It doesn't necessarily have to go in order. Some of these might be swapped around, and there's several different models and examples of this, which we'll talk about in time. But, typically they're going to start with something simple. They're going to build up until they do the more advanced items and action on their objectives, do the bad stuff essentially. So today we're going to be talking about reconnaissance, which is the first phase, and effectively, what is the research or the planning that we're going to do on the target on your organization, and really what that pans out to is understanding attack surface. So if an attacker can get a full view of your attack surface, they essentially know where your weak points are and the best ways in which to attack you. But first they need to plan that attack. So what does that look like? Every organization's got some kind of valuable data, something you don't want to be stolen or it's been leaked, or for the unauthorized people to access that data. And typically you're going to put some kind of perimeter around this data, kind of like a moat around your castle. That may look different depending on your particular network or design. And obviously there's going to be weak points within this perimeter to get in and access your data. This is what attackers want to find so that they can come in and get inside your organization to get at this data. Again, that's presuming if they are external, which more commonly they will be. They'll be outside your organization, sitting on the internet. But also, what about internal threats as well? If we've got a malicious insider, they may also be trying to do things that they shouldn't and perform an attack on your organization. So a couple of examples of some of the types of attack surface that an attacker's gonna do some recon on. Something traditional like web servers. So good old-fashioned websites that are sitting out there with exposed IP addresses and ports. And obviously this is now evolved in a lot of cases into APIs. A lot of companies, we've seen in the past, we've exposed unsecured APIs that's led to very bad data breaches. Another really big external piece would be email. So we need to keep this open. Otherwise, how would people communicate with our organization? But again, this means it's quite a common piece of attack surface that's used to get inside organizations. And when that happens, typically it's your users, your employees that are being tricked into doing something that they shouldn't, or revealing information that they shouldn't. Something that we need to have a good view on if we want to reduce this attack surface. Another piece or example would be your network. So maybe a traditional example, like if you've got a trusted third party and you've built a private network link to that organization, they then have a secure tunnel or a way in inside your perimeter. But also think about something like a VPN. So, maybe you're working from home, and again, an attacker might want to expose that as an attack surface, as a potential tunnel within your organization without having to break through the front door, so to speak. And finally, what about storage? So things like Amazon S3 buckets, Azure blobs, things like that. Plenty of stories we've heard about sensitive data accidentally being exposed out there on the internet on unsecured buckets of data. So plenty of things to think about from an external perspective. What about internal? What about if the attacker's already within your organization? Maybe because they're a malicious insider, or maybe because they've got inside and then looking to expand their reach. Well, obviously, workstations, laptops, these are important devices, contain important data. Your servers, things like domain controllers and privileged servers, going to have a lot of access. Important to understand the attack surface and the risk on those as well. And something that's becoming more and more valuable in the world of security today is identities. So if that's your regular users, your administrators, privileged service accounts, all can lead to potentially bad consequences if we don't understand and secure the risk around that identity. And finally, something that's a bit of a hybrid across external and internal, think about all of these cloud applications and potential SaaS applications that we're now using more and more in our environment. These all have links into the company. Maybe you've got an application installed on your phone or on your laptop that has some kind of connection, an API or a tunnel, back to this SaaS app. The question is, what sort of potential there is there for a data leakage or a cyber breach? It's another key piece of attack surface that we need to understand. So lots of different areas for consideration. But what I'd like to do as part of the next phase of this video is to really look at an example in which an attacker might use to start to compromise you and start to perform that reconnaissance on your organization. So I'm just going to switch my screen over here. So let's think about it. Maybe we're starting off with nothing. We've got no information. Maybe just a domain name because we know we want to do something bad or start to attack this organization. So a really interesting website that you might want to use is cert.sh. And this looks at certificates that are publicly visible across the internet. As we know, most web access now is through HTTPS, through SSL. So certificates are everywhere. And if we put an example domain in, autrender.com in this case, let's just do a quick search. And we can see, pretty quickly some certificate names, which are obviously likely going to match to websites that may be exposed. So this is a good exercise to do for your own organization as well, just to see what kind of exposure have you got out there from a certificate point of view. So let's try and access one of these websites. that we've come up with here. Okay, so not much information. It looks like a lot of garbage, but it's talking about some kind of bucket. So yeah, maybe there's an Amazon S3 bucket behind here. And what we could do is go to index.html, which is a common index page for websites to see. And look, lo and behold, we've got a list of files that are being stored on this bucket. So let's have a look. Got a little picture here. Doesn't look like much use, but we've also got a list of emails, names and email addresses. So as an attacker, now could use this to start potentially sending some phishing attacks on these users. So a simplified example, but again, just a key use case of where we could quickly start to get a bit of recon, clean a bit of information before we start an attack. So how could you get visibility on this on your organization? So using the Trend Micro Vision One platform, the number one dashboard is really focused around a risk index, and it's looking at over time, what is your risk? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? And at a particular point in time, how is your risk broken down? So that might be down to best practices, security configuration. That might be to do with how much are you being attacked. But it's also a big factor of that is your exposure index. So what kind of attack surface have you got? What kind of vulnerabilities have you got? Potential compromises and activities. So this is all part of this dashboard. And in this particular example, if we go and have a look at attack surface discovery, we can see that there's a lot of different areas that we can identify pretty quickly. Starting with internet-facing assets, we can have a look down here at the different websites and the ports and the IP addresses that are open. So here's that open door website that we saw, and we knew that that was being backed by an S3 bucket, which is obviously a cloud asset. So if we drill over here, we could pretty quickly get an overview of all of the different assets in AWS in this case, or maybe it's Azure or GCP in your case, whether that's the virtual machines, the containers, databases, or in our case, it would be around the data storage. And we can see for each of these items, we're sorting this by risk. So we can see right up at the top of the screen here, we've got that particular bucket that was exposed. If we have a look at all the different risk levels factoring into this, we can see, as an example here, this one is allowing public read access. If you've got some sensitive data on there, that's obviously not very good practice. So we can quickly pick this up using the Vision One platform. So that's great for that particular use case. But again, there's many other areas when it comes to attack surface. Again, wouldn't it be great to understand all of your internal devices, laptops, servers, domain controllers? Again, what is the most risky asset there from a configuration or attack perspective? And how do you want to really use your resources to reduce that risk in the quickest possible way? Identity. So again, whether it's users, domain accounts, service accounts, who are the most risky users and identities within the organization, maybe based on their activity, the behavior, the configuration, have they got MFA enabled, things like that. Really useful to be able to get that visibility within the click of a button. Cloud applications, what sort of apps are users accessing on a day-to-day basis? Are they sanctioned? Are they unsanctioned? What sort of risk level? Why have they been categorized as that risk level? So you can quickly start putting policies in place and getting that visibility to understand your exposure internally and externally. And one of the new exciting things that we've added here is around API attack surface visibility. Again, as I said, more and more things that we're seeing around APIs and the usage of these and the risks are growing. So just a quick example here, I've got two APIs. You can see this top one has some authentication on it through AWS, but this bottom one is unauthenticated. So if somebody goes to this, they can get straight in without having to pass any credentials. And again, we can drill down further into that and look at other items that are really focusing on the risk level of this API, whether it's to do with a WAF being installed, certificates, or other items that you might be interested in getting on top of as part of securing your organization. So, okay, everyone, hopefully that was useful. Stay tuned next month, and we're going to be diving deeper into this topic. We're going to be following the path of an attack. So we've started with reconnaissance. Next time, we're going to be looking at how can we use this information to start launch an attack and get some initial access within an environment. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. Look forward to catching up with you all in 2024 and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.